Thank you for joining us. Did you expect anything other than an Australian victory when you woke up this morning? Or maybe it all happened before you even went to bed? It was that quick, wasn't it?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I didn't think England were going to get away with anything in this Test match. Certainly not today either. But I thought they might last till lunch or sort of get through a little bit more. But it sort of just sums up really where England have been in this series and where, I mean, this has to be probably one of the worst Ashes defeats I think I can remember. You know, in the years gone by when England were getting beaten by the Shane Warne team with Glenn McGrath, Ricky Ponting, all of that, you sort of knew. Even the trip I went on in 2003, we sort of went there thinking we've got absolutely no chance against this lot. You know, these are the greatest players that have ever played the game, you know, and they've got 10 of them or 11 of them almost to some degree. This, you went there thinking, you know, England, it's going to be tough for them, but you know, they've got a chance. You know, this Australian side is good, but it's not great. And yet, there's just so many question marks now about everything. The whole of English cricket is going to be brought into question. And, you know, you just hope that the only good that can come out of it, the only positives, is that it's going to really shake up English cricket for the better. It has to.
Well, there are a lot of question marks, and we're going to ask you about all of them, but we'll start with the batting. All right. The last 5 wickets, they lost for 8 runs today, all out for 68. 54 Test ducks for England this year, which equals their own world record. What is the problem with the batting at the moment?
There's just not enough good batsmen in England, and this has been going on for a long, long time, actually. So, you know, I think I saw something the other day that we've had 17 debuts with the bat since 2016, and only 3 people average over 30. And by the way, that means they average just about 30. The rest are all averaging less than that. You know, there's less answers in the batting. That's why it's a bigger problem. I keep seeing people say, you know, in 2015 on white ball cricket, you know, that was the catalyst, and we quickly changed things around, and straight away they brought in a load of players that flew in white ball cricket. I don't see an answer in this at the moment. This is something that needs to change. The only other thing I would say, and this is where you got to look at the management of that England team, that a lot of those players that come in, they might have started okay, but then they've got worse the more they've been in that system, the more they've been in that setup, and that's something that the powers that be have to look at as well. It's twofold, really. You look at the setup as it is at the moment, so Silverwood, Giles, Graham Thorpe, all the coaching setup, but also then you've got to look at the bigger picture and how you change English cricket for the better.
Just coming back on one of those selections, you know, we were talking this morning, is it the way the players are playing, or is it the players they are selecting? You look at Zach Crawley, he's not got a county championship 100 this year. He's averaged at 10, hasn't he, for Test cricket, and yet somehow he's brought in to this 3rd decisive Ashes Test. Where's the strategy or the thinking behind what they're doing with these batters for England?
Yeah, but this is because really there's nowhere else to go at times. I mean, they're literally, whoever they've picked, whoever they've brought in. Now, whether they've brought in Jason Roy in one of the Ashes series as a white ball batsman just to see if he can do something, it doesn't work for him. Then you go to Sibley and Burns, who get all the runs in championship cricket, and it doesn't work for them. You know, so now you're going to young players and hoping that, you know, that everything they've done is slightly irrelevant, because what you're doing, you're picking them on potential. And you just hope that somehow they're going to find something, they're going to learn, and they're going to become great Test cricketers.
And do you think sorry.
Go on.
Carry on, Rob. I was going to ask you about the future of the way that the cricket is played in this country. Is that where it's going to have to come from when you look at the county championship? Is it still fit for purpose if you're supplying cricketers to play on an international stage?
Absolutely not. That is exactly where it's going to come from. And you've got to do some proper research. You've got to have a proper look into it, because what you hear people say at the moment is we just got to prioritise red ball cricket. But what does that actually mean? Okay, so they'll say, do you know what, we need to make sure it's not played in April and May, and we've got to play it in the middle of the summer, which I agree with. But you've also, if you then do a little bit of research and you start looking at the last couple of years when they've played in April, because obviously 2 years ago they didn't, because of COVID, the season didn't start. April has been the best time to bat. There's never been a good time to bat in county cricket over the last few years, but April has been one of the better times. So you've got to start looking into how you actually are going to change the conditions in which these people are trying to learn how to play. You then do have to work out what you really, really need in this is finally, for once, you need the ECB and the counties to work together, not to go against each other. The counties with their own self-interest trying to get what they want out of the world. And the same from the ECB. They have to work together. There has to be some sacrifice along the way to try and help our young players coming through into a system. There's never been a time like this. There has never been a time where batsmen have struggled like they have done. And that's the same. There's never been a time when I started, every county had 2 or 3 spinners. There's no spinners really in English cricket. So it's about time that all this sort of warring between, when do we play the 100? When do we play the blast? When do we get our little bits of the summer? That all has to end. And actually, counties and the ECB need to sit down and do what is best for English cricket. Not what's best for us, what is best for English cricket to help us be successful.
And could that be a long-term approach? So those people at the top, like you've been saying, if they can get together and work together, do we as England cricket fans have to accept that we may not be winning as many test matches and test series as usual for the next 2, 3, maybe 4 or 5 years, but there is a system in place where we are going to be better and better in that time and producing better cricketers?
We are going to have to accept that because it is going to take a while. It's not going to be like white ball cricket where it just happened overnight. All of a sudden, new personnel came in. They were already there in county cricket. It is going to take a period of time, but they're going to have to somehow work out what that is. And there is going to have to be sacrifice along the way. You're going to have to try and work out how you do a county schedule, because at the moment, it's near impossible. It's a complete farce. I feel sorry for the bloke who has to do it. I think Alan Fordham, his name is. He has to try and work out how to fit this, all the matches and all the formats in. Good luck to you, mate. You've got a tough job because that can't be easy. You cannot keep everyone happy. And you watch now, all we'll see is counties sniping at the ECB going at the counties, and it gets you absolutely nowhere. They have to start working together and find a way to just improve the situation. And as you're absolutely right, it is a long game they've got to play. This is going to take a long time.
Before then, of course, Rob, we've got the agony of 2 more test matches, haven't we, in Australia? Joe Root said this morning that he's only looking at those games. He's not looking any further ahead. But do you get the feeling that he's maybe just had enough and it's time for a little bit of a change in captaincy?
Yeah, look, I think you get to this point, I'd imagine this is normally the sort of cycle for captains in all countries, really, where they get to this point and they've had enough. Joe Root himself, has had an unbelievable year. I would be seriously looking at that coaching setup. I think Joe Root, I said after one of the last test matches that, look, he's not the greatest tactician in the world. He's probably not the best captain in the world, but he's had absolutely no help from the people above him, from Silverwood, Giles, people like that. I mean, he's hardly had his best team for a lot of it. I think that setup, that is really where England have to look. That's the closer to home stuff, the immediate stuff they have to do. Have they got the best people in to do that? And that's where they've got to look at it. I mean, when they got rid of Ed Smith, as one of the selectors, they didn't do that because they thought Ed Smith was a poor selector. They did it because the players didn't necessarily like him. That's no way to do anything. You don't just put someone in a coach or a coaching setup that just does whatever the captain says and is there just to facilitate. You bring someone in to enhance the environment, and that's not what England have done.
Is there an obvious person or people who you would like to see in charge of that coaching setup?
Well, look, there's lots of names and there's people, whether they'd want to do it. That's the other thing. It's not always the most attractive thing. I think, English cricket with coaching, I would say, we're now getting to the point where we've had, 2 English people do the job. One is Peter Moores, who did it twice and ended in disaster both times. And this looks like it's going to end that way with Chris Silverwood. So we've got to look at English coaching as well. I saw Paul Farbrace there was a piece in one of the newspapers about him talking about coaching in England and how it's not, no coaches aren't really giving the basics to players. They're not really making a difference. They're just basically telling players, how do you feel, what do you want, get on with it. So we have to have a look at our entire system.